So how well does a string trimmer have to be running for you to use it? Does it have to be running at tip-top shape, or does it just have to be usable? Now, this string trimmer has not been serviced in quite some time, and from the information I've gotten about it, it's about time for not only a good cleaning, but also some serious attention. Otherwise, it's going to be replaced with a dreaded battery one, and hopefully I can keep that from happening. In today's video, we're going to be looking at this very brightly colored string trimmer, and the problem is that it starts, but it doesn't want to stay running. Now, this trimmer was brought to me by a neighbor of mine, and I thought it was a trimmer that I had serviced many years ago, but come to find out it was not the same one, but instead a different one that just happened to look the same. Now, I'm going to try and repair this string trimmer, but yours might be different, so this might not work on yours. So if things are not working out for you like in the video, please ask about it. I'll be glad to answer your questions. So I've been told that if you want a string trimmer to last for years, that you need to buy a good brand and not some big box store junk brand. So I would think this one would happen to qualify as a pretty good brand. However, I know some people would say there are much better brands out there. Like I said in the intro, this trimmer needs a good washing, and before I get too far into this project, I'm going to give it a quick spray and rinse. Now, I don't know what kind of fuel was used in this machine, but since it's not a junk brand, you should be able to use ethanol gasoline and basically any two-stroke oil, right? Otherwise, if you say that I need to use only 100% gasoline with a high-priced synthetic two-stroke oil, but wouldn't that sort of care work to keep any cheap trimmer working for years as well? What it seems like to me is that someone who buys a $300 trimmer is more than likely going to take good care of it, whereas those willing to buy a $140 trimmer is less likely to put high-priced gasoline and a synthetic oil in it. It just seems like it's a difference in mindset versus how much you care to spend on a trimmer. And if you couldn't tell by the buildup of dirt on the air filter, this person who was using this trimmer didn't seem to care enough about it. So after voicing my opinion about better care versus buying expensive machines, what is the trimmer that I use for my own personal lawn then? Surprisingly, it's a Featherlight from the Weed Eater brand. So after a quick spray and rinsing, this trimmer looks like a completely different machine, and what I mean by that is that it looks like one that's only 5 years old and not 10. Now, having seen that the air filter was in such terrible condition, it might be worth it to at least try and start it without the air filter and see if it stays running. Now, an air filter that's clogged as badly as this one might be enough to cause our issues, and if it is, we might just get away with only needing a new air filter and not a new carb. So as you just saw, it's not wanting to stay running, and for those of you who might be saying that I didn't let it warm up enough before taking the choke off, it didn't really matter how long I let it run for. I've let it warm up for a lot longer, and the results were always the same. I also wanted to take a peek at the fuel that was in the tank to see if it might be old and stale, but it's still quite fresh, and I can't see any water in it either. The next step was to see if the fuel filter was still connected to the fuel line in the tank. If for some reason it came off the fuel line, the carb would be pulling unfiltered fuel from the tank that would eventually clog up the screen in the carb and would cause our issues. However, as you can see, it's still connected to the fuel line, so that's not our issue, and we'll have to look elsewhere for our cause. But what if instead of looking for the cause of our issue, we just try to make it work better? I know that sounds like we're putting a bandage on a gaping wound, but if it gets you up and walking around, it's better than not doing anything at all. Of course, I'm talking about making some carb adjustments to see if we can tune the problem away. So these are the fuel adjustment screws on the carb, and to be able to turn them, we'll need a special tool that you can find online. Now the screw that's on the left is for making low engine speed fuel adjustments, which is what we're going to focus on since the engine won't idle. And to start off, I'm going to turn it counterclockwise a quarter turn to give the engine more fuel and see how it runs. Oh, and since we're adding more fuel at idle, I'll need to turn the idle set screw clockwise to keep the engine from stalling because of all that extra fuel. So what do you think? It's running a whole lot better, right? But is it good enough for you to use, or do you think it needs a full service instead? So what did I end up doing then? Well, to keep it from stalling out while idling, I turned the low speed adjustment screw counterclockwise a quarter turn. But all that extra fuel at idle will also try and stall out the engine as well, so I had to increase the idle speed to counteract it. And once we were able to keep it from stopping, the next step was to make our adjustments to the high-speed screw that's closer to the air filter. And to those who were paying attention, yes, I did forget to install a new air filter before I started tuning it, but even after putting a brand new air filter in, it really didn't have much of an effect on the tuning we did. I do think just getting rid of the old one was more beneficial though. So here's the situation. Should I give it back to them after only doing some carb tuning, or should I put effort into servicing the carb instead? Now the reason I'm questioning it is because making some adjustments to the carb is really in essence masking the problem with it. Besides that, I'm also thinking about servicing the recoil and possibly even replacing the rope because it's a little too short to make a full pull. That means I'm not ready to give this trimmer back to my neighbor just yet, and if I'm going to keep it for a little bit longer, I might as well go through the entire machine anyway. So what's the point in asking you guys and girls about what to do then? Well, it's all about cost. The work I've done so far isn't going to be expensive because I haven't put that much time into it. However, if I go through the entire machine, the time goes up dramatically, and that means it'll cost them a whole lot more. Basically, put yourself in their shoes. Would you rather pay half as much and get a machine that kind of runs well and has a short pull rope, or pay twice as much to get a fully serviced machine, pull rope and all? The thing is, I can't guarantee my work on something that I didn't work on, meaning if there's a carb problem, which eventually will happen, I can't really say I'll cover it. But if I service it, well, that's a different situation, and of course I will cover my work. Now don't worry, I am going to ask them what they want me to do, but I would like you to see it from their perspective and make your own choice as well. So my question is, would you want this string trimmer back running the way that it is, or do you think it'd be running a whole lot better after I did a full service on it instead? Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.